here we are. I know what you're thinking. Well, I lost the damn shirt. On the bright side, I found my old Nintendo 64 from all the way back, you know, then, when, or whatever. Anyway, so not only did I find it, but it also has my original copy of Super Mario 64. I lost this thing over 15 years ago.
First thing I did was check to see if the console and the game worked, and guess what? They did. I had one save file at 108 stars and the other one at exactly 70, which, anyway.
Well, I guess this isn't all bad. I mean, a shirt dies and a retro collection gets bigger. Well, technically speaking, you guys don't know if I'm not wearing the shirt under this, because just like Schrodinger's cat, until I do the big reveal, I am both wearing and not wearing the shirt. And only by revealing will you guys know. Or at least that's a lie I tell myself. Nah, my shirt. I mean, technically speaking, I'm wearing a jacket, so I could possibly be technically still wearing it. Because, you know, jackets usually go with another shirt.
Jeez, just let it go.
Yeah, anyway, so was I right about those Crash reviews, or was I right about those Crash reviews? I mean, geez, some of the titles I read for the reviews were just... Well, to be fair, the game also received a lot of positive reviews, and fan feedback seems to be great. And the game also has an 81 on Metacritic. A respectable 81 on Metacritic. I mean, my favorite game of all time is at an 87, so 81 is not too shabby. But anyway, so moving on, we are here to discuss Uncharted 2, not all that other stuff. So, Uncharted 2. I just want to say that I'm going to try to be as critical as I can be, which is going to be really hard considering the fact that I can't find much wrong with this game. Yes, I'm spoiling the review right now. Yeah, Uncharted 2 is Uncharted 2. But anyway, so we're going to have to start with the history first.
And by history, I mean my history with the game, because there is a possibility that if it weren't for this game, I would not be here. I would not have made a channel, and I wouldn't have been here talking to you guys, because before Uncharted 2 came out, around the year 2005, just before I went into high school, I practically stopped playing video games. I mean, sure, there were always those feel-good video games that I always had a blast going back to, like Metal Gear Solid 2, Devil May Cry 3, Dark Cloud 2, and the like. But for the most part, I stopped playing video games. Instead, I spent the majority of my time watching anime, and being in a thing with a certain someone. And keep in mind, I bought a PS3 mostly just for Metal Gear Solid 4 and Devil May Cry 4, because when you think about it, a lot of old-time favorite games either did not transition to the PS3 generation or transitioned horrendously, and because of that, and my increase in attention to the person that was in my life and anime, that stopped me from exploring newer games. That, however, changed completely when I saw the Uncharted 2 trailer. Oh my god, you guys should have seen my reaction. I was so used to this low polygon pixelated face, and to see this, my god, I thought to myself, I better play the first game quick before getting to this game, because as you guys know, there's nothing I love more than a person who sees the number 3 or 4 on a video game, and instead of looking for the first game of the series on either the digital marketplace or eBay, they decide to start from that game, which is absolutely lovely. But anyway, the reason I'm giving Uncharted 2 so much credit is that because of Uncharted 2, and because I was so blown away by it, I wanted to explore more Sony exclusives. And it's because of this game that I played the likes of Infamous, Killzone 2, and Heavy Rain, which in turn led me to play amazing games like Red Dead Redemption, Dark Souls, Batman Arkham Asylum, and you get the idea. And honestly, Uncharted 2 is the best gateway drug a person could ask for, don't you think?
So yeah, saying all of that, I could easily see people assuming a bias here. But, you know, if I can't find things wrong with my personal favorite game of all time, then I think I can be objective. I mean, it's up to you guys to judge. I mean, you're the ones who are watching. But anyways, with that said, let's jump into the actual game's history.
Uncharted 2 Among Thieves, which for some reason I keep calling Uncharted 2 Honor Among Thieves, was released in 2009 before Instagrammies and Snappy Chatties were a thing, and before people knew what resolution was. The PS3 generation was probably one of the funniest generations in my opinion. The number of people that used component cables and did not know what the hell HDMI was quite frankly shocking. That said, I bet more people were forced to use component on PS3s than people on the Xbox 360. Why? Because the PS3 had this annoying little thing called HDCP, otherwise known as the High Bandwidth Digital Copyright Protection, and this annoying little thing gave trouble to many of us aspiring content creators, for the simple reason being that because of HDCP we could not record our PS3 using HDMI and we had to use component, and not after hours of research and setup did many of us find a way around this, which is by connecting the PS3's HDMI to an HDMI splitter, thus removing the HDCP and allowing our capture cards to record using HDMI. And it's sad that to this day and forever the PS3 will always have HDCP, and thus always requiring the HDMI splitter. I also think that this is partly the reason why the Xbox 360 was more popular, because the 360 did not have HDCP, which yeah, someone had the right idea. That said, the PS4 on the other hand does not have HDCP. You can turn it off in the options menu, and since I'm reviewing the Uncharted Nathan Drake collection on the PS4, that really helps me out. What doesn't help me out is the fact that for some reason my entire playthrough of Uncharted 2 and 3 was recorded with an audio error where the voices sounded like they were coming out of a cheap 1950s microphone, which means that yes, for this review I played Uncharted 2 twice, and it currently takes up 255 gigabytes on my hard drive.
Lazarević paid top dollar for Marco Polo's journals. He's been after the Cintamani Stone for years. Lazarević paid top dollar for Marco Polo's journals. He's been after the Cintamani Stone for years.
There's a little more to this game's development that I'll get into later, but for now, let's start the goddamn story already.
The game is set 3 years after its predecessor, where we see Nathan Drake in a train with blood. Oh no, come on, dude, grab on. Holy shit! Oh, Jesus, dude. Oh, God, come on, climb.
I mean, he has a bullet wound, for God's sakes. Come on, a motherfucker with a bullet wound can do this. And I can at least do this. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on.
Okay, let's try this again.
Wait, the chapter is called A Rock and a Hard Place?
We're at the beach drinking beer. Oh right, this game has flashbacks. And that said, I was really surprised, and if you guys watched my Sly Cooper 3 review, you would know that Uncharted 2 perhaps might be one of the few games, in my opinion, that did flashbacks right, in the sense that the game never reveals too much regarding the characters and the story. In fact, the place where Nathan starts having the flashbacks is midway through the game. You approximately have 4 hours left of gameplay, which means that a lot of the game was still left a mystery, unlike Sly 3 where the flashbacks occurred at the end of the game, which means if you know the situation at the end of the game, you can for the most part predict the events that will happen during the game, and that in my opinion took away from the game a little. That said, Uncharted 2 does not have this problem. In fact, it does the flashback so well that I'm not only shocked at the execution in the sense that for the most part you are always playing. If the flashback was one long sequence, then that would be one cutscene that would give Metal Gear a run for its money. But it wasn't, which means I really don't have any negative remarks on it, because not only did they do it at the right time in the game's timeline, but by the end of the flashback, thanks to this betrayal, we as the player are ready to do some shit.
Yeah, well, payback's a bitch.
But anyways, back to the story. The game actually starts and, dude, you're in the middle of nowhere with a bullet wound. There's more to life than just stealing, like actually living for one thing. Well, aside from a small gameplay section, nothing really happens until we go back to the flashbacks, with Nathan being interrupted by this guy, Harry Flynn.
And by the way, this is not worth any of it. But there's more.
But there's more.
Well, you heard this degenerative brain tumor. Unfortunately, he succeeds in convincing Nate to rob a Turkish museum with him.
I pick more than my nose, my friend.
Huh. F you.
Hey!
Alright, fine.
And of course, if you couldn't guess by now, after all the name calling, he betrays us and we end up in jail. That said, it's not all bad. I mean, Nathan agrees.
Oh, no, it's not that bad. Look, I have my own bucket.
And that woman Drake was talking to is the new lovely Chloe Frazer. She was not part of the asyphilitic dumpster fire's betrayal, which is why when she had the time, and I say when she had the time because she waited 3 months before she told Sully, after which he bribed some people to get Nathan out. Now I have a few questions regarding this. Now I usually don't focus on the story too much. I mean, in games like Freedom Planet and Mario, it's absolutely ridiculous to take any sort of plot hole seriously. That said, Uncharted is a heavily story driven game, which makes me want to ask, why did Chloe take her sweet ass time telling Sully about Nate's situation. Furthermore, given Nate and Sully's close relationship, you would think Nate would at least send Sully a text message saying, "Hey, going to rob a Turkish museum with a diuretic mongoose. If you don't hear from me in the next few days, then be a lamb and check to see if I'm in prison or dead." But anyways, after that, we head to Borneo with Victor, goddamn Sullivan. We find a map and a weird looking key which leads us away from the lush jungles of Borneo and to the militant occupied Nepal, which oddly enough reminds me a lot of Metal Gear Solid 4, the setting I mean. But anyways, this is the perfect time to talk about the gameplay and, well, how is it different from Uncharted 1's gameplay? Well, at first glance, the game might seem like it's an exact replica of its predecessor, but that's not the case. First, before going into the actual combat, let's talk about the stealth segments. These are the segments which I feel have been unjustifiably criticized, because it's not fleshed out the same way a Metal Gear game is. I mean, aside from the museum section, which is all stealth, there are some sections in the game that allow you to kill a few enemies stealthily before being inevitably spotted. But there are those rare few places where you can actually kill everyone without being spotted.
It's all clear.
Alright, let's head to that water tower.
Gotta find a way up there. Were you impressed? Got all those guys all by myself?
I don't know if I use the word impressed.
Now, people's main issues with these segments is that you get discovered way too easily, which results in the game defaulting into a gunfight, but I would argue that this is how the game is supposed to play out. You're not supposed to be able to sneak your way through the entire game. Uncharted, after all, is an action-adventure video game and not a stealth video game. Take Metal Gear, for example. You are able to do both, either sneak through the entire game or go in guns blazing. But if you go in guns blazing, while it's still possible, the controls feel super clunky. And the reason for that being is that you're not supposed to play the game this way, but the option is there. I feel the same applies to Uncharted 2 for the most part. You're not supposed to be able to play the game like a Metal Gear game, but the option to kill a few people using stealth is still there. I mostly like it this way because of the fact that you're not supposed to play the game stealthily. If you try to kill everybody using stealth when the game gives you the opportunity to use it, the task becomes insanely difficult. And I actually find the challenge to be exciting. Areas weren't really designed for the flexibility of implementing the stealth kills, and an added layer of difficulty for trying to do an entire section stealthily is something I greatly enjoy in Uncharted 2. And with that covered, time to get to the actual gun combat in this game. If you remember in my Uncharted 1 review, I mentioned that I really liked getting headshots in that game only, while in the second game I don't get that urge. I, for the most part, just fill everyone with bullets. I never knew why until I started looking at Uncharted 2 critically. Now, this is not a negative on the game, it's just something that they changed, and it is the fact that guns in the game have more recoil than they did in Uncharted 1. Furthermore, Nathan's reaction to getting shot is much more expressive than it was in Uncharted 1. Combined with the gun recoil makes it much more difficult to get a headshot. That increases when you're using something like a machine gun. Given the story focus where you have more AI controlled friends this time around more than you did in the previous game, I don't mind the adjustments to the combat, because that just means I need to get better at it if I would want to make more headshots. Speaking of AI controlled friends,
Seems like I am always saving your ass.
Well, it is an ass worth saving.
yep, we meet up with Chloe, who's just as charming as ever.
Oh, is that an ancient Tibetan ritual dagger in your pocket?
Oh, maybe I'm just happy to see you.
Yeah, hello.
And off we go to finding the temple mentioned in the map, and to do that we need to first locate it by going to the highest place, and that being a hotel with a swimming pool.
Hey, check it out. Marco.
Really?
Come on.
No.
Marco.
Hello.
No way.
Yeah, that. I should probably discuss another difference between this game and its predecessor. While with Uncharted 1 most of the focus was on arcade gameplay, Uncharted 2 tried to create a balance between regular shooting people and action set pieces. Hence this chopper that just does not want to give up. I mean, what the hell? Alright, fine, you want to play that way? Take that! Freaking finally! Oh. The set pieces apparently get more and more ridiculous as you proceed through the game, and my favorite being...
Don't you assholes see the helicopter? I got enough trouble already!
That said, I love the balance between the two. The set piece segments are fun and the straight up gun segments are fun as well. Well, they can actually be more fun if you're a moron like me.
These soldiers think we...
That's what I call a strike.
Okay, on a more serious note, I do have some negatives regarding the gameplay, which I will get to in due time. In the meantime, however, let's continue the story. With meeting Elena, we run into her and Jeff while on our way to the temple, and...
Oh, Elena Fisher. Last year's model.
That's cute. Yeah. No. Glad you find this so funny.
Well, I never figured you for the white bread picket fence type.
Hey, she's a lot tougher than she looks, thank you.
Oh,
Oh, what?
she broke your heart.
Oh, please.
She did.
You know, it's a good thing Nathan likes Elena because Chloe is totally my type.
Well,
What?
aren't you gonna comment on Chloe's overused accent in video games?
Heck, when you look like that, you can sound and say whatever you want.
Hey!
She's so easy to piss off.
Which way'd Chloe go?
You're a dirty old man, Sullivan.
Hey!
Now, before moving on with the story, can we please address what the hell happened to Elena? I have a feeling this is going to be another Carmelita situation, except this time it's the face, not the voice. Elena wasn't kidding about being last year's model. To what god-awful plastic surgeon did she go to? But I digress. Moving on with the story, we finally get to the temple, and we get to do a part that makes my hands sweat like no other. I personally have a fear of height, and this segment where you get to climb a dagger and then walk on the damn thing is just...
I can feel my hands sweating already.
Whew, I can't imagine the cojones it would take to be able to do that shit. But I suppose now is as good of a time as any to talk about the platforming, and there's not really much to say aside from the fact that this game does with those insta-kill quick-time events that used to come out of nowhere in Uncharted 1. Furthermore, the climbing animation has been greatly improved. Nathan's movement feel very natural as he grabs onto ledges and climbs. And the last thing that was added to the game is that sometimes your AI companion will give you a boost, or vice versa. And yeah, a boost is not gonna help you get out of this place. After escaping the hole, Elena's cameraman gets shot and we try to help him, but...
Shame.
I would make a joke about that, but I'm pretty sure everybody has made a joke about that at this point.
When you put it that way, it does sound pretty stupid.
Yeah, thanks for the input, Jeff.
Yeah, and it's time for you to output, Jeff. Yes, I know it's checkout, but you know, I couldn't work it in.
So who killed Jeff? Well, it was this guy, Zoran Lazarević, hands down the best villain in the Uncharted series. Well, admittedly the bar was not very high considering how average the villains have been in the Uncharted series, which resulted in me being very surprised at how off the charts amazing this guy is. At first glance, it's easy to look at him as being a generic villain that would easily fit in with one of your forgettable Call of Duty campaigns, but what really sells Lazarević's character is not only his intent and unwavering determination.
This is not a negotiation! Who would you sacrifice, and who would you save? What, this one? You want to save this one? Or maybe this one?
You know what? Enough of this shit. All right, quit the theatrics.
But also the fact that there's a whole philosophy behind this guy.
Are you a student of history, Mr. Drake?
I've read a book or two.
Genghis Khan, Hitler, Stalin, Pol Pot, they were all great men. But do you know why they prevailed?
I'm sure you're gonna tell us.
Because they had the will to do what other men would not.
Uncharted game villains generally come in pairs. You had Gabriel and Navarro, who didn't leave much of an impression, and then you had Talbot and Catherine, who left an entirely wrong impression. And then you had the final villains in Uncharted 4, who were the most boring of the bunch. I mean, how you end up being more one note than the villains of Uncharted 1 is simply beyond me, but anyways. Zoran, on the other hand, might appear simplistic in his beliefs, but the way he carries them with conviction gives this guy a monstrous presence. Never have I had my heart beat by a villain entering a room like this guy. When he walked into the room, I was like, holy shit, shit is about to go down.
So, this little man is Drake.
Whew. Did you guys feel that? I mean, holy shit!
And he did not disappoint, well, until he left the situation in this asshat's hands, who of course miserably... Elena?
Say, get up!
All I can say is that I hope Nathan was right about Elena's right hook. Following that escape, we head to the train station to rescue Chloe as she was taken to the train because of her suspicious activities. Suspicious activities meaning running around the whole town with Nathan, while none of the soldiers or the people who flew the chopper getting the bright idea to radio in that she is a traitor. Or as Lazarević puts it,
I do not suffer traitors.
as we subtly try to sneak in the train station.
Think this through!
Holy!
Lucky for us, Elena shows up to the rescue, after which she helps us get on the train and we start one of my absolute favorite moments in video games. I mean, am I crazy or does this still look really impressive even today? This might just be my age speaking, but Uncharted 2 even to this day is still a breathtakingly beautiful game. I mean, my god, look at this. They made this game in 2009 for a system that had only 256 megabytes of RAM. Wrap your heads around that as you watch the chopper scene. As well as the scenery changing from foresty to snowy. Speaking of the chopper, I'm getting tired of that thing, so why don't we finish it off once and for all?
Enjoy the ride down, asshole!
Tank? What the hell do they need a tank?
Well, my friend, I hope we never have to find out. Let's go back to the train ride. Well, time to rescue Chloe, and is it just me or does this guy take more hits to kill than he should? Ah, finally! Hey, Chloe!
No.
You just don't know when to quit, do you? What? No witty remark? Nothing clever to say?
Say it with me.
You asshole. And yes, this is how we ended up in a train that was about to fall off a cliff. After climbing all of that with a bullet wound, we end up doing something different, fighting a whole bunch of guys while again having a bullet wound in sub-zero temperatures. Forget Kratos, we have a new unkillable protagonist. Well, it was actually in this segment that I noticed that I either really suck at switching cover or there is room to improve in this aspect of the game. Though a thing about those lunatic soldiers we've been fighting, my god, I have never seen such a group of loyal and dedicated soldiers. They should really be working for someone like Big Boss. I mean, can you imagine some of those lunatics during a job interview?
So, henchman number 847. When the building was collapsing, thanks to a machine gun rocket equipped helicopter. You try to escape, right? No, I stay inside. Kill Drake. Yeah, but the building was collapsing on you. Yes. So?
Regardless, we get the dagger, take a little nap, and wake up to meet the man that saved us. Unfortunately, he does not speak English.
I suppose you speak English, do you?
Wait, Elena, how long have I been out? Well, anyways, she takes us to meet the man that narrated the E3 trailer of Uncharted 2. You know, the one that blew my mind, but I can't show it here because Sony might copyright claim it. Yeah, that one. Lazarević is one scary ass dude, but the really old man that is at least 90 years old and somehow is still able to walk without his bones turning to dust sets out to convince us to not give up by sending us on a mission with good old Tenzin. Alright, this shouldn't take long.
I guess it's time to talk about the puzzles.
Alright, the puzzles. So what do I think? Well, I thought that the puzzles in the first game were a little too easy, but I honestly didn't mind them too much thanks to the first game being more of an arcade action game. I am happy to report though that they are perfect in this game. I love to climb in Uncharted games. Uncharted 2 combines the climbing with the puzzle solving to create rather amusing segments where the puzzles aren't hard to figure out as much as they are fun to solve. And this is what I believe should be the standard for Uncharted puzzles. And I hope that this is something that the third game carries on with. I love the statue bit, I love the dagger bit, I love the mechanical. Wait, what? Alright, this is getting ridiculous.
Alright, hey, come on, admit it. You're impressed.
I am. I'll throw you a banana.
Because seriously, what kind of ape are we controlling? Next thing you're gonna tell me that Drake has one of the professor's people helmets. I mean, take a look at this section over here. This is one of my favorite sections in the game thanks to the pure ridiculousness of it. You have to fight enemies from almost every direction while at the same time switching sides so that you don't get killed. While Nathan climbs this sub-zero ice cave without gloves on, let's talk about the story some more.
Okay, kidding aside, that really freaked me out the first time I played the game.
I don't know what the hell those things are. What I do know is that they can take one hell of a beating. Holy shit, how many bullets and stabs does it take to bring this thing down? Well, unless one of you guys has the time to count, I've had enough and want to go home.
Tenzin, we gotta get moving.
Yeah, sure, that's a good idea. Let's keep moving.
So we find a few dead bodies and Nathan learns that they are Nazis, and my favorite part about this scene is Tenzin's reaction.
Nazis.
Nazi?
You speak English or not, you live at the ends of the earth or not, everybody knows Nazis. Like, they reached real-life comic book villain status at this point.
That said, I have a theory. I really do think Tenzin can speak English and he's just messing with Nathan, kinda like how Jackie Chan was messing with Chris Tucker in Rush Hour. Huh, another Rush Hour reference. Well, those monsters show up again, but Tenzin and Nathan manage to escape just in time to watch the village get destroyed by an army. Those innocent people!
I think it's time to bring back the demon.
Drunk?
Wow, imagine the guy driving the tank at a job interview. So, henchman number 941. Hey, so, it says over here that you were driving a tank and you decided to drive it halfway from falling just to maybe crush Drake with it? Sir, yes, sir!
After we do a pretty badass snow vehicle segment, it was so weird playing this the first time. I did not know what to make of it. No other game I have played before had a live choreographed section like this, and all I can say is bravo Naughty Dog. Anyway, this is where the gameplay gets really tough. As I mentioned before in my Uncharted 1 review, I find that the Uncharted series works best in large open battlefields where it's easy to pinpoint enemy locations. And while for the most part the last section leading up to the finale is that, there are some instances where the game shoves you in fights where the battlefield is more vertical. And honestly, despite having the game on the normal difficulty, I died so many times that I quite frankly almost rage broke my controller while thinking, I am playing on normal. The game should not have a difficulty spike like this. And I mean seriously, the difficulty spike is no joke. I never encountered anything this ridiculous while beating all the Arkham games on the hard difficulty. But again, this goes back to how I would personally design Uncharted areas. Like, this is a good area and this is a bad area. And I understand that due to the location the game is set in, they had to include structures like this. That said, adjust the enemy AI to be more reasonable. Now that covered, I can't get too mad at the game, and while this is one of my very few criticisms of the game, that the difficulty balancing goes all over the place near the end, it's not really a problem because, as I mentioned before, if at any time you find yourself stuck at a chapter, then all you have to do is go back to the menu and set the game to easy or explorer. Now granted, on the explorer difficulty, trophies are disabled, but they're not on easy. Furthermore, I recently learned that to be able to set the chapter you're currently playing to easy, you need to get to a checkpoint in that chapter. Otherwise, you're gonna have to start from the previous chapter at easy, which again, I feel like this does not qualify as an issue given that the chapters aren't really that long, and all you need to do to activate easy mode is to get to a checkpoint in that chapter, which again, given the large amount of checkpoints in the game, I don't think handling the feature this way is a negative. It's more of a nitpick since Naughty Dog probably assumed that most people would not have too much difficulty in completing the game on normal, because you know, this is normal we're talking about, not crushing. And another thing regarding the checkpoints, though I am not sure about this, so feel free to correct me, is that I think that checkpoints also activate once you find a hidden piece of treasure in that chapter, which regarding the treasures in this game, I actually had more fun collecting them than I did in Uncharted 1 for some reason. I mean, I still only pick them up when I see them, I rarely ever go looking for them. I just like the way I noticed one at the corner of my eyes thanks to the way they glow, and some made me feel smart for finding them. I mean, I only found a little over 20 and there are like 100 in the game, so yeah, I know a lot of reviewers would still consider the difficulty spike to be a huge negative on the game, but I'm not like most reviewers. I'm the type of person that if something can be bypassed one way or another, like say being able to switch the game to easy, then I'm more than willing to let things slide for the sake of enjoying the game. Okay, this is getting a little ridiculous. What the hell kind of armor are they wearing? Well, after killing those things, yeah, I'm not calling something that can take that kind of beating human. After that, we get to my second favorite scene in the Uncharted series. You guys all know my favorite one, and now it's time to show you my favorite second one.
Calm down.
You, asswipe.
Asswipe, that's the word I've been looking for, and yeah, I love the part where they all point the gun at Drake, which, yeah, okay, so I know that in my previous Uncharted 1 review, I showed you guys a collection of scenes that demonstrate how much I enjoy the Uncharted 1 script. Now, I can't do that for Uncharted 2, because if I were to do that, I'd have to show you guys the whole damn game. Or sorry, the whole damn game.
Pressing on with the story because I'm at a point in my script where I almost reached 5,000 words. The gates open and we go into Shambhala. And we are attacked by guardians. No, not those guardians, those guardians. Though they might as well be Dark Souls guardians because they can take one hell of a beating.
Watch out for the guys in the
So after killing a lot of people, we get to the Cintamani Stone to find out that it's not a stone at all, and it is at this scene right here where we get to my second complaint regarding Uncharted 2. The scene where the asswipe blows himself up and injures Elena. So why don't I like this scene? Well, it was very clearly meant to remove both Elena and Chloe from the picture so that Nathan goes to fight the final villain alone. I mean, I get it, Nate is the protagonist and they wanted to have a 1v1 with Lazarević. I just don't like the way the scene was executed. It felt out of place in an otherwise spectacularly written story. Like they seriously could not think of something better. And speaking of which, I am really missing Sully at this point. His appearance in this game is more of a cameo than having any actual relevant role. I kinda hoped he would have a part at the end segment, but guess not. We move on to battling the final villain in the game, and I love this boss fight, though nobody other than me seems to like it. I think it's clever and I'm absolutely mesmerized every time Lazarević screams into the camera. The amount of detail in his character model for a PS3 game is stunning. But anyway, what you have to do is hit the sap when he is near it and he will eventually die. That said, during my first playthrough with the game, he did not give me much trouble, but my second playthrough, Jesus Christ, he kicked my ass an unusual amount of times. But anyway, after we defeat him and leave him to be killed in a rather brutal scene, honestly, I mean, holy hell. Look at the way his body is reacting to being hit. So Nate then decides to get the hell out of there before he is, you know, next, only to find the whole place starting to collapse. He easily makes his way to the end because, come on, was there any doubt? I mean, this is the same dude that climbed a train with a bullet wound. We get to the end and time passes as Elena heals and the main trio is back together. And while this is a lovely ending, I don't like how they didn't get anything. I mean, I get it, you can't have your characters walk away filthy rich in every game, but still.
Metaphor ain't gonna pay your bills, kid.
Well, something else will come along. Just gotta have faith.
Yeah. That and a quarter will get you 25 cents.
Right you are, Sully. Right you are. Wait, where's Chloe?
My turn to walk away. But admit it, you're gonna miss this ass.
Indeed I will, Chloe. Indeed I will. All I can say now is that she better be in the third game, and that's how the game ends, with Nathan and Elena bonding over the adventure they have been through together. And this was Uncharted 2. Now before ending the review, I would like to discuss a comment I made during my Uncharted 1 Drake's Fortune review, where I said that Uncharted 1 is the only game in the series that I can pick up at any time and at any place. While for the other games in the series, I need to be in a specific mood. While that is true, the fact that this is what takes me to play Uncharted 2 specifically is no way a bad thing. The mood I'm talking about regarding this game is an epic one. And what I mean is that before I play this game, I need to prepare myself for the roller coaster ride to come when playing this game. And that mindset is not a mindset that I can get to every day, because my heart would literally explode from the game's epicness. I mean, this, without a doubt, is the perfect Uncharted game. Where the first game went to an entirely happy and easygoing place, the second game is perfectly balanced between silly adventure and intense moments. Whereas the third game sits a little further in the intense line. And the last thing we get to discuss before I end the review is the multiplayer, which back when I first played the game, I actually enjoyed the multiplayer, even though it made no sense for a game like Uncharted to have multiplayer. But nowadays, I would not hold my breath for a match. After about 20 minutes of waiting, I gave, wait a minute, there we go. Well, I'm not really a multiplayer sort of person, so I really don't know what to add other than it's there and it works apparently. I mean, if you are hoping for any technical detail regarding it, then I'm sorry. Anything I say regarding the multiplayer would just be me pulling stuff out of my ass. But for what it's worth, I had fun with it. If that means anything, I just thought I would mention the multiplayer to cover everything. Because the multiplayer is only present in the PS3 version of the game. The collection removed the multiplayer from the second and third game, which really makes no difference to me because I don't have a PS Plus subscription.
And this was my review of Uncharted 2. Honestly, one of the best games I've ever played, and certainly is the best Uncharted game I played. And you know, I don't like to use the phrasing best game of all time because, you know, people who like racing games or fighting games, they probably don't give two shits about Uncharted, which is why I like the phrasing of best game at what it does, or the best game in the genre that it's in. That seems more appropriate to me, at least. Anyways, so as you guys know, I don't normally give scores to video games. And if I did give scores, there'd be one thing stopping me from giving Uncharted 2 a perfect score. And it is the fact that you can't toss grenades back at enemies. I mean, this only applies to the game because the combat is so much fun and nothing kills the mood and makes you feel less like a badass than when you're like killing everybody and then somebody tosses a grenade at a tight space and you can't dodge around it and you, yeah. So, and that's my only major complaint with the game. I mean, everything else is just a nitpick. And thankfully it was fixed in the third game, which, speaking of the third game, it's time to see you guys there. So with that said, for those of you who are watching wherever you may be in this world, thank you guys for watching and stay alive until the next video.
El goddamn Dorado.